Hi, good afternoon, good evening, everyone that joined this session live. It's really thank you for being with us, and I have the privilege of getting Subash to join me on this interview as we try to find out from him about his recent MDRT Annual Meeting in Boston, his experience and his role, his duties as assistant director. And Subash, how are you this afternoon, Monday afternoon?
Yes, thank you, Kevin. Monday is like no other day in our line of business. So it's business as usual, Monday through to
Yeah,
Friday. And sometimes I do make exceptions to see clients on a Saturday,
yeah,
preferably before lunch or over lunch. And yeah, all good. Thank you. And thank you for giving me the opportunity to
yeah.
share my recent experiences at the Million Dollar Roundtable Conference in Boston, USA.
Yeah. Yes, thank you. I think that it happened almost a month ago, from the 26th to the 29th of June. And at that time, I was thinking of attending, but for various reasons, I didn't register. But you represented us very well. You're the assistant director, also the flag bearer, and I'm sure there's a few things I'd like to ask you. But before we do that, I believe you have some photos from the event you'd like to share with. I think that maybe let's walk down that memory lane and
Yes.
you share with us your memory and what stood out for you. Yeah,
Yes, thank you very much. And Kevin, this is a photograph of me just outside the main platform. And as you can see, I'm dressed in all my regalia at or off the MDRT.
yes,
One thing that excites me always is the ribbons that I receive, which goes just below my membership badge. And this year, I qualified as a top of the table member. I am a committee member.
mm.
I'm a PGA volunteer, uh, a foundation contributor, and grant recipient for a charity of my
Wow,
choice. And also, I was an assistant director at the conference in Boston
yeah,
this year.
yeah,
Yes, so it's a long tale to tell, and however, I've
yeah,
seen many other members at the MDRT with
yeah.
ribbons going down to their knees.
Wow,
So yeah, I wonder if you've seen that, but that's
yeah,
something to really aspire
yeah.
to.
Wow, that's something. I think that I attended in 2018, 19. Yeah, I also had these ribbons, and I still keep them at the back behind me. And yeah, it certainly reminds you about the milestones, if you like, at that stage, and your kind of your contribution. So that's great, hey?
Yes,
Yeah.
exactly. Yeah.
Oh, I see that Kubus has joined. I just like to say good afternoon to Kubus. Thanks for joining us live. And Subash, would you like to carry on with the
Yes.
sharing of your?
The next photograph is This is a photograph of me with the six other assistant directors from around the globe, with our director, Colin Parkin, and
Yeah.
the two MDRT portfolio managers. So this year, I was fortunate to be invited to serve as an assistant director at the conference. And I'll
Mm.
go on to share a little bit about how I became the assistant director for this year's conference. Actually, an assistant director. In 2020, I received an invite to serve as an assistant director
Yeah.
by Shaktivel Indra Kumar. He's from Chennai in India, and he was appointed as a director, and he
Mm.
recruited me to serve on his team at the conference in Dubai. Now, I
Right.
was quite nervous because my previous experiences as a volunteer were
Yeah.
straightforward, and Quibus had initially recruited me as a volunteer, and he was on the ball and gave me all the information that I needed, and I hit the road running, knowing that
Yeah.
I was serving under someone who I was familiar with. But when Shaktivel said that I could invited me to serve as an assistant director, I was pretty nervous because I did
Sure.
not know what the portfolio entailed and how I was going to go about executing my duties and responsibilities. However, Shaktivel had reassured me that he will take me through the process and guide me, and we will make a success of it under his leadership. I accepted the appointment, and in the early parts of 2020, we got
Yeah.
started with the recruitment process of volunteers, etc. And
Yeah.
as the months progressed and lockdown hit us hard, the conference was cancelled, and
Wow. Sure. Yeah.
duties as traffic volunteers had fallen through. So
Mm.
this year, once again, and with all honesty, I'm going to say this, I received the invite to share as an assistant director from
Yeah.
Colin Parkin in the traffic sessions 2 task force. So I was kind of halfway there. And then
Yeah.
again, I was very reserved that I don't know Mr. Parkin. I don't know the other members of the task force who are
Yeah.
serving as assistant directors.
Mm.
And, how am I going to pull this off? And I accepted the invitation, and a few weeks later, a 90-page assistant director manual was emailed to me.
Wow. 90 pages. Okay.
Yes, so I read the first page, the second, third, fourth page, and I said, you know what, I probably have bitten off too much that I can chew.
Sure.
And we had our first AD meeting with our director, and he as well assured us that he's here to guide and make this a success. It was reassuring to some extent, and eventually I got through the assistant director's manual, and I knew what the portfolio entailed and what the deliverables were. So as the weeks and months went by, there were various Zoom meetings with the other directors and
Okay.
assistant directors. And it kind of gave me confidence that I was not alone in this journey of serving as an assistant director.
Right.
The concerns and, should I say, fears of the other assistant directors were very much aligned to my feelings at that point in time. And
Right.
we took things one step at a time. And, eventually, I had all my volunteers who had subscribed under me. I went through the relevant communications of the formal invites, and reassuring them as well that this is going to be an experience like no other. And
Sure.
one of these points that stand out is that I had 4 people from Japan who had signed up to serve under my task force team.
Right.
And initially my emails to them went unanswered, and I wondered, I spoke to one of my colleagues, one of the other assistant directors, and said, I've got 4 members who are up to no good, and that was my exact words. And they're from Japan, and I don't know what's going on with them. And a colleague reminded me, do you know what their language of preference is? And the penny dropped. I went onto the MDRT system, and they only wrote and they spoke and could communicate in Japanese.
All right.
So yes, MDRT offices in Chicago does have a department that translates communication, etc.
Okay.
And I got in touch with them to translate my emails and letters, and then I had a response from them. And that was a learning curve for me. I took things for granted.
Yeah.
So, the days went by, and, next thing we met in Boston, and it was there to, get the show started. That's what's got me there as an assistant director.
Wow. I think this kind of experience is quite unforgettable of a lifetime. Like the way you're being assigned a duty, and then you have to coordinate people from around the world. You mentioned about people from Japan, and and having to figure out about logistics, about language, and how to communicate. Wow,
Yes.
that's certainly yeah. I think that it's like essentially you manage a project and then bring different people you never met. that's that's quite unbelievable. All right,
Exactly.
Subash, carry on with your slideshow.
Yeah, I mean, this is my ribbons that I received for 2022 in Boston. I am a top of the table member and
Yeah,
a committee member, an MDRT Foundation contributor, a PGA volunteer, and
yeah,
this year I served as a PGA assistant director.
mm,
So, as I mentioned previously, that I've
yeah,
seen some members with these ribbons that actually go down to their knees. So that really is quite an accomplishment. And
yeah,
yes, something else that I look forward to is as serving as a volunteer, you receive a hat which identifies you from
yeah,
other members. And the purpose of the hat is to signify that you are a volunteer and
yeah,
you can assist other members with any of their queries, concerns with regards to where they can get information and where they
yeah,
should be at any point in time during the
mm,
conference.
mm,
The next picture is a photograph of me, and this was taken at the PGA Appreciation Dinner Evening. So,
mm,
here too, I mean, it was the group of PGA assistant directors with our directors,
yeah.
and there were also language barriers here. So, for some
Okay,
of the speakers who addressed us, we had to wear these translation headsets.
okay.
Mm, And
So
yeah, this,
I guess the language you hear is English, right?
yes, that's correct.
Okay.
Yeah. And this is the opening ceremony. Is it possible that I can play this clip?
Yeah, let's try it. See if technology allows us to. Yeah, no, Subhash, that kind of entertainment or performance at events, I think it's really that vibe. It's something you won't get kind of off. You won't get it on a virtual online experience, but rather you have to be there. With the people, and you hear it, and the music and the dance, the performance. Yeah,
Yes.
that's yeah. I remember that.
You know, what I found interesting is that from my previous in person meetings, when the 2020 meeting went online,
Yeah.
I was a bit apprehensive about how is MDRT, the events division, going to pull this off? Because when
Mm,
you're there, it's an experience like no other.
yeah.
And I was quite surprised that I also signed up for the online event in 2020 and 2021. And
Right.
both of them, although online, the content and the delivery was equally invigorating as an in
Mm,
person
yeah.
a conference. So, they put together the technology, etc. And with me sitting at my home office, during the allocated times, I was also blown away by the online experience.
Sure. I think that the what you have shown, and certainly MDRT did that very well in terms of organizing like top-notch performance. And if you look at the sound and the sights, the visual, it's certainly very impressive.
It's very absorbing to be there in person. It really touches one's inner soul or your heart when you in this group of financial advisors and planners from around the world. I find it very touching.
Okay. So Subash, any more photos to share, or that's the end of it?
That's the photographs that I had. That was for posting.
I think that if any of you are friends with Subash on Facebook, just check out. I saw that was on the 27th of June, and certainly it's something that you will want to go back and to refresh and treasure the memory. And I just want to check the chat, and Kubus, certainly you are very good with with using the chat function, and I thank you for the interaction. And what Kubus was saying here is that he found that with Google Translate, he communicates so well with my volunteer, etc. So Kubus, thanks for the tip. I think that for any of us who are going to manage people across the different borders and languages, certainly, that's a tool we will need to make it to our checklist to use. Thanks for that. Right, and I just want to ask Subash. Okay, so I have some questions for you. So when did you register for the annual meeting?
Okay. I registered as soon as the registration portal opened. That was in March this year. And the earlier you register, you'd qualify for an early bird discount.
Right.
And, that is what I took advantage of. In my previous years, I remember there was a year, I think it was 2017, that I was, procrastinating and did not register on time. And, within a few days, I got up and they said that registration is closed because the meeting had reached capacity. And, I was, totally disgruntled. And what do I do here? And I think I phoned my colleague and, mentor, Corbus Klein, and I told him, Corbus, I've been holding on to register and I just didn't get around to doing it. And, it's good to know people in high places, because after emails, I mean, he got me through the door there. So personally, thanks, Corbus. So yes, the sooner you register, there's an early bird discount and you're guaranteed a seat at the annual conference.
Yeah, certainly. I think that with the early bird discount, you get maybe $100, $200 off. And as you get closer to the date of the event, then the prices goes up. Yeah. So because obviously the organizer will also want to do the planning in good time instead of leaving everything to the last minute. Okay. And then and tell us how. So I think that you cover that in terms of how you became the assistant director for the traffic task force. And you also touched on the preparatory work before the meeting. I think that you did share with me, but if you can just share with the audience about what did it mean to to be an assistant director traffic force task force prior to the meeting. How did you get people together? What kind of a tool did you use to communicate with people around the world?
Yes, thanks for that. When I did sign up for the AD responsibilities, it stated very specifically in the opening pages that my task was to recruit volunteers from around the globe and manage them through to the annual conference. Now, I sat back and gave it some thought. I don't know many people abroad. And my network of MDRT members was primarily in South Africa. And I reached out to the South African MDRT group, and very few attended, as in, I'm willing to volunteer. And, that didn't work out well. So I actually reached out to the global MDRT community on their Facebook page and a WhatsApp group that was created for previous conferences. And I advertised that I am going to be serving as an assistant director, and I'm looking for individuals to volunteer in my task force group. And I was surprised that individuals that I did not know put forward their details with their full names, MDRT details, and contact details, and said that they are willing to volunteer their time in my task force. So the process was rather formalized in that I took the information from these various groups and created a register of volunteers that I had. And this year, MDRT came up with an online system where we could register our volunteers and even evaluate them online. So the online system MDRT put forward, I was told it's the first year that it was running. I'm not sure if it was over the previous years. And it worked exceptionally well in that we tracked members from an MDRT database perspective. And that's how the network grew. And I kept on asking on a weekly basis if there's anyone else who's willing to join my task force. And that's how it grew. So, apart from getting those people to serve in my task force, I met them in person at the conference. And, it's part of the global community that MDRT speaks to. So I must say that my network grew phenomenally. My global network grew phenomenally during this annual conference and the preparations. So yes, from putting together that database and overseeing the work of my volunteers to evaluating them, and the process of evaluating was that we had to rate the quality of people that we had. And the criteria was: are they dependable? Are they on time? Do they wish to be serving for future leadership roles? Do they wish to volunteer in the future? And as the conference and the task force ran, you could gauge who was committed to making a difference and a success of the volunteer program and who was not. But fortunately for me, people understood what the assignment was, and everything ran very smoothly.
And how many people report to you in your team?
Yes, officially I had 27 people that I recorded on the MDRT system. But as the hype grew, when registration or when doors opened on that Saturday and people started frequenting the MDRT store to Sunday, I had people coming in and saying, here's my friend, he's from Mexico, he wants to volunteer. And, and I must say, I had a huge gathering from India, and, I'm South African Indian. And lots of people came in because they saw me being an Indian, they want to volunteer with me. I don't speak any Indian languages, etc. Unfortunately, Indians, the delegates from India do speak English to a large extent. And, the one thing is that everyone wanted a hat. And I was warned by my director.
That's right.
When these people come there and they want to volunteer for a hat, it doesn't work like that. They must show up for duty on time, and then only they would get a hat. And I was surprised that people came there for the experience, because those that serve as volunteers, they go back and they chat to their fellow members on the benefits, and they were committed and passionate about it.
Yes. Yeah. I just want to share this message from Kubas. he mentioned about the evaluation system. So he
Yes.
was the director main platform in 2019. I remember in the Sydney global conference, and he says a brilliant evaluation system. So thanks, Kubus, for
Yes.
your confirmation.
Yes,
So
thanks, Cobus, and thanks for sharing that, Kevin. Cobus is a
okay,
seasoned member, and we
yeah,
we weren't privy to these platforms. It was
yeah.
only for people in the upper echelons of leadership who had access to it.
I think we are very slow learners compared to Kubas. Like Kubas, like he's like takes 3 steps in one stride, whereas like we take like 1 step in one stride. So
Yeah.
so yeah, okay. So but it sounds like there's a lot of work involved in like leading a team, recruiting and communicating, getting them ready, and at the last minute you might still have new people joining and want to be a volunteer. So that's a lot of work. And how do you manage to attend the meeting and be a volunteer and manage the
Mhm.
people to do what they're supposed to do at the meeting?
Yes, I think it's preparation and dependability because as we reached, to the meeting, to the actual in-person meeting itself, I had followed all the directions and did the necessary preparations.
Right.
I opened a WhatsApp group for my team of volunteers,
Yeah.
and I kept in contact with them for weeks before the run-up to the meeting. And that already created a sense of personalization and dependability.
Yeah.
And I had to get to the meeting on that Friday before the actual conference started on Sunday.
Mm.
And our director took us through a walkthrough of the conference venue. And we had some discussions because when you serve as a volunteer, you know
Yeah.
what your challenges were in previous years and how it
Mm.
might surface at this conference. And we addressed that in a meeting that afternoon. And we had an appreciation dinner, which was
Mm.
all very la-di-da, etc. But when they spoke, and when they, the trick here is that they did the appreciation dinner before the
Mm.
event, and
Oh,
that made us more, effective in fulfilling our duties because we
yeah.
already did the dinner, and the conference is only starting in 2 days' time. So we were
Yeah.
such that there ain't no such thing as a free lunch, and you got to
Mm.
deliver. So,
Yeah.
the Saturday was a similar thing. We had to meet with our directors, etc.
Mm.
And at
Mm.
3:30 in the afternoon, this is where all our volunteers gathered. So it was important that we had to get as many of our volunteers there at the volunteer session on that Saturday afternoon.
Mm.
There
Mm.
were some individuals who could not make it on time due to flights and logistic reasons, etc. But we
Yeah.
had already identified who was going to be there and who was not.
Mm.
We were addressed by the leadership and advised on what's expected of us and how we're going to carry forward our duties as volunteers and assistant directors.
Mm.
All that ran well. And, on Sunday, it was the usual main platform meeting where we were spectators.
Yeah.
And they did not have the walkthrough of first time attendees, etc., because of
Mm.
COVID regulations just being
Okay.
easy. So that was not on
Yeah.
the on the
Mm.
cards. And
Mm.
we all sat and watched the main platform, and that was fantastic. Where I had a challenge was serving as the assistant director for my task force, was
Mm.
that it kind of coincided with maybe a session that I wanted to attend
Right.
whilst
Right.
my duties were on as an assistant director.
Mm.
Now, the way to work around that is to call on one of the other assistant directors, to serve on my behalf whilst I was taking, call it a sabbatical and, catching up on something that was important to me. But, I wanted to make sure that everything runs smoothly. I was appointed 6 traffic sessions, and each one was for an hour. And being on time is late. You got to be early. So I
Mm.
took all that advice from
Mm.
the past ADs, and
Yeah.
I wanted to make sure that it's 100% success. So I was there for all of my assignments, and fortunately, all the people that I recruited under my task force, I had split them up into groups because I also wanted to give them the opportunity to enjoy and take away from the conference, as we all look forward to doing. So I had broken up my team of about 34 people into 6 different teams, and they were there, they were committed. I also called on other people to please assist, just in case I have some no-shows. And, even the people that I called on voluntarily had showed up to assist in my task force. So, that wasn't too much of an issue because, once the conference is over, you can always go and rewind. And, the content was available online, and stuff that I deemed important to me, I actually went and downloaded those manuals and perused through it so that, it could really impact what I was doing.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, that's great. For sharing that. I think hearing what Subash, what you said about being volunteer, and not this time you take one step further to be in a leadership role. To me, it's when you are as a attendee, participant at a conference, that's great, and that's you get the experience in that. But when you are a volunteer, then you are seeing things from a kind of a different angle, so to speak. And I remember when I was a volunteer at the 2019 Sydney Global Conference, I had to be at certain sessions earlier because you are, as a volunteer, you had to be there early to assist. And I think your experience as a assistant director took one level up to say that your commitment, you have to be at the session earlier, and afterwards you still need to evaluate those volunteers. And I think that's at different levels. Your experience is different, but through that you also grow as a person, because that you being a through this experience you build you broaden your network, and you now understand what it means to manage a team of volunteers from people around the world. Yeah, so I think that hats off to you for that. And Subash, finally, the thing I would like to ask you is that what's your highlights of the meeting, and if there is any low lights of the meeting?
Yes, I'll be frank about it. The low light was that, when we get together at the annual meeting, we are people from all walks of life. In South Africa, my take on things is that it's all work and no play. And, I'm going to pay an amount of money to get to the global conference or the conference in Boston, and I want to get as much out of it as possible. And what I've seen is the introduction of the whole person plan, the whole person concept. And for me, that was something new. It's not about all work and no play. And this was something that Kobus had mentioned to me many years ago as well. And I thought that when I'm in the business of making money, I've got no time to play. I want to make money, and that's been my strategy for many years. And listening to the various main platform and focus session speakers when they speak about the whole person concept, it is important to have that balance in life. That whether it's spiritually, religiously, or family time, or hobbies, etc., they all make up the whole person. And I think that was something that I took away from as very important. The other important thing is that when one speaks about, it was one of the speakers that mentioned that the purpose of life is living life with a purpose. Now, that quote has been around for a few years. I think the author of it is one of the MDRT speakers, but I did not hear it before. It was repeated on the main platform this year. And it's quite a deep quotation, and it left a lasting impact, and it resonated in me as to what is my purpose in life. People speak about your purpose in life, but what is it? It is about
Yeah.
living life with a purpose.
Mm.
And I'm still exploring that quotation, and that's something I took away.
Mm.
Things that really didn't go that well was there weren't enough, as an AD, the feedback I got from my volunteers was that there was not enough catering facilities, as in canteens or coffee shops.
Yeah.
And that's been an issue over the years. And
Mm.
the other thing was that they don't cater for the various cultures that attend
Right.
the meeting. You
Okay.
would get a New York coffee shop, and that's it. But you got people coming from Singapore, from
Mm.
Malaysia, from India, and Mexico, etc. So there wasn't much refreshments, etc., for those cultures. That's
Mm.
been one of the things. And the other recommendation I made, from my experience, and yes, I see Corbus's note on Google Translate, etc., but
Yeah.
I didn't think I'd need it. But anyway, is that when people do volunteer, it would be nice that they adapt the system so
Yeah.
that one can volunteer in their language of choice
Mm.
if they so desire, because it just creates a much deeper connection with
Yeah.
members and their volunteers, or coming from me as an AD.
Mm.
And yeah, one of the other concerns was that we were supposed to be wearing masks at the
Yeah.
conference. And a
Oh.
few days before the actual conference started,
Mm.
the US Health Department had uplifted the ban. So we had
Yeah.
to show them our vaccination certificates, and we
Mm.
had free entry into the entire conference venue.
Mm. Okay.
Other than
So
that, yeah, it went well.
okay. So there no one wear mask at the event,
No one.
and you felt safe.
I did.
All right. Thanks, Subash. I thought that's thanks very much for sharing. For someone who represent us from South Africa, and fly our flag high, and have that experience. I think that's really wonderful for you to share that, and so that I think that's also act as a encouragement for any members, any younger members who aspire to be at the future meeting, and also maybe to participate as a volunteer. And I think there's so much to learn. I just want to just share something here from Kubus. And Kubus, thanks again for this message. He said that as directors, we sacrifice many sessions ourselves, which I can appreciate. Sometimes I volunteer on so many PGA and PDC and miss most of the non-mem platform sessions. I try to serve on main platform where possible. So that's a tip from Kubus. So that for any of us who would like to attend the sessions, maybe we need to strive to serve on the main platform so we don't miss out on those
Yeah.
sessions we would like to attend. But Kubus, thanks for the tip. Yes, I think that, and Kubus, thanks very much for your contribution, the interaction on the messages. I don't see any other messages from any other members, but I think that I really appreciate, number one, Kubus, that Subash, here and from your busy schedule, you are sharing this with all of us so that we can have this on the various platforms. This, by the way, this session is live, and afterwards also shared as a recording on YouTube, LinkedIn, as well as Facebook. So if you are not able to join us live, you can watch later. But I also like to thank everyone who's with us live, and it's very encouraging for us as we share the experience. And I do think that this will help all of us to rethink about our strategy going forward in terms of attending meeting, whether you still decide you want to attend meeting in person or virtually. And I think that some of the members do ask me to say that whether I can go to MDRT and try to negotiate a better deal in terms of virtual meeting going forward. But I think that still maybe the ultimate prize for any of the members, MDRT members from South Africa or from anywhere in the world, is certainly to attend a meeting in person and really to network, to experience, to exchange, like the handshake and that, seeing a person eye to eye. I think that's quite special. Yeah. Subash, any final word from you before we close this session?
Yes, the highlight of my 2022 meeting in Boston was serving as the assistant director. Apart from the usual and extraordinary takeaways that I have, I left there feeling enthused, excited, motivated, etc. Serving as an assistant director cultivated leadership skills within me, which I did not know that I could pull off. And with the help of my team of volunteers and the assistant directors and directors, it certainly made me realize that, it could have been done. And I guess, that's what the MDRT message is. You can be anything you want to be.
Yeah.
And I certainly learned a lot from that. And I must endorse, everyone has their own cup of tea. For me, the in-person meeting is non-negotiable at least once in a member's lifetime. And I will keep going back. And so thank you very much for that.
Yeah, I just want to end with this quote from, maybe to summarize what Subash said. MDRT helps explore your leadership potential. I think that it's really true. Unless we've been put to the test, we don't know what our potential is. And I think that thanks very much for sharing that. And I'd just like to thank everyone for joining us. And until we meet again next time, tomorrow I'll be flying down to Durban, and I look forward to meeting all our members in Durban and a lot of veterans in that area. Until next time, I would like to say goodbye to all of you.
Thank you.